Did you guys see the little freebie I gave away today?
Yep.
Pretty sick. I mean, like, it's literally, that's how simple some certain things are. Like people like overcomplicate, but it's like sometimes you just need, it's the wholesaler deal info checklist. That's like literally what your whole business has become, like a simplified process of what is all the information. Feels like everyone does it. I don't want to sign anything to anyone, but like as an engineer, like I feel like people do it like very chaotically. It's like something new to them every single time when it's like it's kind of the same things. Define that. There's going to be things come up, but like the core is there. Define that and then follow that process. It'll make your whole life easier, less hectic. You know exactly what you need. Like checklists are the way to go. Hey everyone, Michael Manatskainen here. Going live with our Wealth to Real Estate School community. Just as a quick reminder, if this is their first time hearing about me, over the last 4 years, I built a portfolio of over 50 rentals worth right around $20 million. And I did it using little to none of my own money. Actually, we have some of my capital partners in this call right now. So thanks for showing up. And like my goal with what I do on YouTube, Instagram, our free Wealth to Real Estate community, all of that is to help you do the exact same thing. Maybe you don't need $20 million. Maybe you need 10, 100. I don't really care. The process is the same over and over again. I want to show you that process so you can achieve the wealth and the financial freedom level that is most in alignment with you and your life goals. So if you want to stay up to date, join our Wealth to Real Estate community. We have right around 600 awesome investors, buyers, lenders, intentional connectors, and we're continuing to grow every single day. Instagram is a great way to connect with me as well. So Michael M. Nat, Michael M. N-A-T, and then YouTube as well at The Intentional Investor. And then so starting November 1st, I have like a really awesome thing coming out, actually called The Intentional Investor. It's going to be my first time doing this type of group coaching. I've done a lot of one-on-one or very small group coaching where for a very high ticket item, I help real estate investors scale their portfolio, leveraging creative financing, capital raising, mastering deal analysis, all that good stuff. And we do a 6-week intensive boot camp where I'm basically guiding them through every step of the way. What I've done is I'm making that as accessible as possible to as many people as possible by putting that into a group coaching format on school. It's going to be a paid school community. It will be $500 a month starting out. After the month of November, I may be closing the doors on that just because I don't want it to grow too large so that I want to make sure that everyone that's in there is getting max amount of value. In addition to the actual training and content, you get all the content that they get. You get access to every single recording, every single tool, every resource, everything you need to achieve financial freedom and generate massive wealth through real estate investing, primarily focusing on minimizing your risk through mastering deal analysis, implementing a very systematic and step-by-step property acquisition and due diligence process, and mastering the art of capital raising. In addition to that, I have another 7-part series that's included. It's your blueprint to real estate investing. Whether it's your first deal or you're looking for your next deal and you want to be more systematic about the entire process, I've got that included in there as well. Plus dozens of videos on how to analyze real estate investments, traditionally creative finance, fix and flips. If you're a wholesaler, there's information there for you as well. If you're a lender, we talk about that because I'm a lender myself as well. So with that being said, let me show you real quickly. Let me show you our school community real quickly and run you through some of the awesome things I've been giving away to our community. So here is our Wealth to Real Estate community, right around 600 members, and really just trying to share, the emphasis for me, whether you're a buyer, lender, capital raiser, I don't really care what you do. If you're investing in real estate, you need to master the art of deal analysis. And we go over that. We have various trainings on that specific task or like that specific part of your business. I am consistently giving away awesome, goodies to our community. And my goal, just like this live Zoom, I'm going to try to answer all of your questions to help you guys on your journey. I may not know every single thing, or I can't think of everything that you guys need help with. I do my best, especially with our standardized, checklists. And I can look back and say, okay, this is what I do over and over again. This is what people should know. But you guys have some very specific questions I want to help answer depending on where you're at in your investing journey. One of the things was we were asking the community, how do you know what information you need to get from a wholesaler if you're trying to analyze their deals to buy and hold real estate? Awesome. Well, we do that all the time. That's a huge part of the Intentional Investor Group. And then my 6-week intensive boot camp, the veteran investors, that's a huge part of what we do. So I just included that as a freebie for our Wealth to Real Estate community. And that's this document. Seems very straightforward, and it should be. You should know every single item that you're looking for. It's going to be roughly the same for every single deal. With the caveat, when you get into creative financing, There's a few more items that you definitely need, and then some items that are nice to have if available, but you can extract a lot of this information online using, tools like PropStream, which, if you want a free trial for PropStream, I'll put the link below so you can get a free trial. But we'll do a whole video on gathering that information as well as like finding motivated sellers on PropStream. Just want to give you a quick overview of some of Intentional Investors training. You guys actually in the Wealth of Real Estate community get access to the first 2 modules, which is completely focused on your financial freedom. This is everything you need to know about understanding your financial freedom path through real estate investing, your timelines, how many properties you're going to buy, how you can accelerate that journey or take it slower. It's up to you, but it's like the most transparent, thorough training I've ever seen about this topic. And I'm a little biased, right? But honestly, I stay very involved with what other people are doing. And I think this is just massive value for you all. We have, I don't know, a multitude of videos on all about mastering deal analysis, extremely systematic. We go through the lead generation process for how you're going to generate leads within your business. We go through the property acquisition blueprint, which is literally massive. This is so huge for my business, is systematically following a process over and over again. And then we're currently diving into capital raising and mastering that. And there's like 3 to 4 parts on just that alone. Plus we recap with all the systems, tools, resources, everything that I'm using for then you to use to streamline your journey to financial freedom and generating massive wealth through real estate. So with all that being said, let's get right into it. Are there any quick questions? Because my plan today was to pull up PropStream and go through some stuff. It looks like there's some issues with that. So I'm going to just answer a question that was asked by a few of our community members. All right. So one of our community members, Derek, asked about finding leads, like finding potentially motivated sellers. And remember, what I primarily talk about in the intentional investor group primarily is going through and finding deals from wholesalers themselves specifically, and then buying those deals or renegotiating those deals. Derek is also doing wholesaling and looking to do more buy and hold investing, right? So his question is much more focused on not getting deals from other wholesalers, but rather how can he strategically go after buy and hold opportunities when he's directly looking for leads. And that's where PropStream is going to come in, and I'll do a whole video on that topic. But I can just go based off my experience. When I'm looking for buy and hold investments, working directly with a seller or agent, there are specific motivations I'm looking for. Since I'm looking to buy, like my buy box is much more focused on more so turnkey properties that are already renovated in good condition, that maybe I have to do some minor rehab, especially like cosmetic rehab, floors, painting, things like that. But I'm not structurally changing anything. I'm not doing a gut rehab because I don't want to invest that much time into that type of deal, especially if I'm leveraging creative financing. That money that I put in there is kind of locked away. Like I forced appreciate it. There's equity, but it's kind of locked away until I refinance that property or sell it. So I don't want to put too much money just stuck in a deal. So buying that fairly turnkey property and then just doing some cosmetic renovations, leveraging like advanced management strategies or leveraging that cosmetic renovation to then drive additional income is a big part of what I do. Not trying to do massive rehabs. If I'm doing massive rehabs, those are more my fix and flips where I know I'm buying it and the goal is to then either sell it and tap into that equity, that profit that I force appreciated, or a cash out refinance where I can take out the money that I put in. But if I'm buying deals the way that I am at 0%, 1%, 2, 3, 4% interest rates, I don't really want to refinance those out. And I get a ton of long-term wealth benefits from paying down those debts over time. And really, my tenants are paying down those debts for me over time, which is phenomenal. So for me, I'm looking to buy creatively financed deals that are fairly turnkey, and the money that we're putting into renovations are more cosmetic focused or management strategy focused. For example, if I get a great property that's like 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,500 square feet, and then I'm going to implement maybe a rent by the room strategy, I don't mind adding non-load bearing walls, or actually I'm going to be adding non-load bearing walls to maximize the bedroom count within reason, right? To then drive the income on the property. I like doing renovations like that, but what I don't want to do is go into a full gut rehab and buy it creatively and then know I'm going to lose that great interest rate anyway. It's just like a waste of money. I'm better off just buying that through a hard money lender or a private money lender or with, cash essentially, and then putting a new loan in place after the fact. So with that being said, right, the specific types of deals that I'm looking for are motivated sellers, cater towards creative financing. The more motivated they are in the sense that I know they've wanted to sell, the better for me. And the more I can leverage great creative financing, the better. So for me, I target opportunities for sub two. So buying a property subject to its existing loan, taking over the property where I'm taking over their loan. Really, actually, the loan stays in the seller's name. I'm taking over responsibility of payments on that loan, but I am the owner of that asset. And I do that because it's typically very cost effective, much more so than taking out a new loan. And even when interest rates were 7, 8, 9%, I know they've gone down a little bit. I'm buying deals at 2 and 3%. I mean, the lowest sub two deal interest rate we bought was around 2.3% interest rate. That's phenomenal when everyone else is saying they can't find anything because it doesn't make sense at 8 or 9%. So that's a huge reason why I've been buying subject to deals over the last couple of years where interest rates have been very high. It'll make certain deals work. And the less I have to put in, the higher my cash on cash return on that deal. Secondarily, if I'm buying some of these properties that are already furnished, it's even better for my management strategy, depending on what I'm trying to do. So that's why I really like looking at something called low equity on market deals, because write that down, right? I'll tell you which ones to write down, like the motivations that I target, but low equity on market. What that means is that the seller does not have a lot of equity. Either they bought the property very recently and they didn't put a large down payment down, or the property maybe lost value. So what I'm looking to do in those scenarios is take over the property with very little to no money down, because honestly, the seller has no other option. I'm not saying that in the sense of, oh, I'm going to take advantage of someone. It just, if they try to sell it traditionally and they have no equity, they're going to have to pay 5, 10, 20 plus $1,000 to sell a house that they no longer want. So in their opinion, it is much better for them to sell it to someone else who will probably, I've paid, paying the seller to buy their house. I'll buy that house even if it has no equity. And most importantly, they're not losing money to sell that house. Where that's that low equity scenario. It's if they bought it recently and there's no equity, they're going to lose money when they acquire the deal because of the costs and the fees associated with it. And same with when they sell it, and they're probably going to have to put in money to pay off the original bank note just to sell that house, or they're not going to be able to sell that house, or they're in another loan because they thought they were going to sell it and they bought another one because they moved or whatever. And now they can't afford 2 mortgages. They're on their way to foreclosure, right? They're on the way to missing payments and on their path to foreclosure. So for them, giving up their loan, even though the loan stays in their name, but giving up the house, selling the house through that strategy makes more sense for them. And for me, it's great because that means I'm buying properties that are fairly turnkey because they were recently bought. Typically, they're listed on the market, and most properties listed on the market are ready to go. You don't really need to do a lot of renovations on them. And I can buy it for very little to no money down. The biggest issue with no equity on market deals is that by the time you buy it, especially the way that I do it, leveraging, other people's money or capital partners to acquire these deals, you're going to end up negative equity between what you're buying it for. The house is worth $300,000 and I'm buying it for $300,000. We have to pay, $50,000 to pay the seller, pay the agent, renovate the property a little bit. Now I'm like negative equity. So that's like an issue with it. You're negative equity, but if your goal is not to sell in the very near future, that your debt amount, right? That let's say the debt is 300,000 or your property value is $300,000, but the total money in like all the debts plus some of your fees are 350,000, you're negative $50,000 of equity. Well, over time, that debt is getting paid down every single month by your tenant while the property continues to appreciate in value. So that starts changing, but it doesn't happen very early on, especially not very early into a amortization schedule or very soon after you take out a new loan or they took out the new loan. The longer you hold it, the more each monthly payment goes towards paying the principal of the debt down, less is wasted towards interest because that's how amortization works. So there's that. Like I like low equity on market deals, and what I'm primarily buying anyway are pad splits or rent by the room properties, and I'm buying short-term rentals. Like 1 of every 10 of the properties that I'm buying are really great short-term rentals. I'm buying properties that can short-term rent because they're in a phenomenal location, or the property itself is just beautiful. Like our multi-million-dollar property in San Diego, that's 6,000 plus square feet, multiple hot tubs and all this good stuff. It's a phenomenal property. That house itself is an amenity and the location is great. So I'm not advocating for anyone to just go out there and only buy short-term rentals, especially if you're trying to buy basic 1, 2, 3 bedroom homes and wherever. Could you make money? Sure. For me, the risk isn't worth it. And even for those phenomenal ones, I'm only buying them like one of every 10 deals. What I'm primarily buying are these co-living homes or rent by the room properties in great co-living markets, major cities that have high employment, that the rent is like absurdly high. So what I'm going to do is provide an affordable housing option for people who don't mind having a shared space. They're like a shared common space, and they want just to pay less, but they want to live in like a better part of town in a bigger house and things like that. So with that being said, one of my best strategies for buying these great pad split opportunities is finding short-term rentals that other people failed to operate effectively. And maybe they didn't do their numbers right. Maybe taxes and insurance went up. Maybe they wanted to manage it, but they no longer do, especially if it's a low equity deal. I will buy those properties if it makes financial sense to do so, because now I'm getting a very nice property. Most of it is furnished, and then I'm adding a few extra bedrooms and implementing a new management strategy, the co-living strategy, and I'm minimizing my entry costs because there's not a lot to the seller. It's not working out for them anyway. They want to get out from those monthly payments and the debt, and they don't really want to deal with the furniture, right? They don't want to have to move all the furniture out. And for them, it doesn't work as a short-term rental, but maybe they're not as knowledgeable, or maybe they don't want to do co-living. So then I'm able to buy that property, very little money down. I'm able to offset a lot of my furnishing costs and renovation costs. Just going to add a few more bedrooms and furnish those, which is very cost effective. And on the ultimate creative finance calculator, that's, it's done for you in a very quick fashion based on some averages, but it's very like market dependent, contractor dependent, but it's kind of done for you. It gives you a rough idea. I think we say around $6,000 per bedroom for non-load bearing walls, as long as like two or three of the walls are already there, and around $1,500 a bedroom to furnish. Really, the bedroom's going to be between 1,000 and 1,200, but that excess goes to like furnishing the common areas as well. Actually, it's another thing intentional investors get. They get my exact furnishing checklist, right? They get every single property that I'm furnishing through pad split. I have a very systematized, the kitchen needs these items. Here's how much they cost. Here's where you buy it. Here's the quantities that you need. Bedrooms, every bedroom's furnished this way. Here's the items. Like it makes it easy because that's what I do in my business. I try to make things easy, like that wholesale deal info checklist. Instead of trying to do this kind of stuff chaotically over and over again, you can define your system. You don't need me to do it. I had to do all this for myself, but you can leverage everything that I've done to accumulate my portfolio to streamline your path, or you can just do it for yourself. It's ultimately up to you. But with that being said, low equity on market is great for subject to deals, because them selling it traditionally may not make sense for them and they may have to pay out of pocket. So they're very flexible to selling it creatively. You can take over great interest rate debt, typically with little to no money down. And then especially if you're stacking, like I said, a failed short-term rental operator or just a tired short-term rental operator, then you convert it to a better management strategy. You've already further reduced your entry costs because you're no longer having to furnish the full house. Maybe you're furnishing 25% of it or whatever now. So that's low equity on market. That's great for subject to. On the exact opposite end of the spectrum, I love seller finance deals. Seller finance deals tend to be opportunities where the seller has very high equity or they own the property outright. So either they have very little debt on the property left or they own it completely outright. So that's the second one that I really like. We said low equity on market and then high equity, because conducive to seller finance, especially when there's an absentee owner. So someone can own a property outright, but if they live in the house, they're more likely not going to sell it to you, especially not creatively. But if they are a landlord and they're absentee, so their mailing address is different than the property address, is I think the way that that's triggered. It might be other ways now, but I think that's the way that's triggered. The mailing address for their taxes or their county records are different than the property address. Then they're defined as an absentee owner. Doesn't mean they don't live there. No, because I send my mail to a PO box, so that could be the same situation for them. But I like those high equity absentee owner properties because they're conducive to seller financing. The problem with seller financing is the seller owns it either outright or has very low debt. So they're probably, if they're renting it out, they're probably making some pretty good money. But if they're maybe a tired landlord, maybe they've been doing it for a long time, or they're older, or they like the idea of continuing getting monthly payments, but they don't want to deal with their tenants, there's a great opportunity there, but they're not nearly as motivated. Sometimes if they're already wanting to sell, saving on taxes and deferring payments over a period of time will benefit them, right? And so you can understand from that perspective. or you pay them interest. So the 500,000 they were going to get ends up being 700,000 plus. That could be a motivator for them, but they're not nearly as motivated as these low equity on market deals. And sometimes they're not sometimes they're listed on the market and sometimes they're not. So it just depends. So you're either looking for it off market or on market. And just as an example, when I started doing some off market deal finding, my specific focus was high equity, absentee owners in my local market in Fairbanks, Alaska when I started. And I was only looking for small multifamily. So the seller or the owner had very little to no debt on the property. They didn't live in that property and it was 2 to 4 units. That's what I was looking for because that's exactly what I want to buy. So you can take these filters and then sub-filter them. And just for reference, I think my wife and I, we wrote around 250-ish letters, met with around 20 plus sellers. Actually, I think we wrote almost 500 letters, met with over 25 plus potential sellers, had those conversations. And the conversation that I had was about a duplex that the seller owned. He didn't want to sell that one, but that's how I was able to learn about his 20 rental cabins that he would be open to creative financing. Then we went a little more crazy with that. We did something called the Morby method, or a combination of a commercial loan with a seller finance loan or seller finance carryback. Don't worry too much about that. You can get really creative with this stuff. What you need to master first and foremost is sub 2 and seller finance, especially seller finance, because there's a lot of variations to seller financing. And just want to give you a real life example. But at the same time, that guy was motivated because he was older. He was moving out of the state. He wanted to maintain his duplex as a place for him to go back and visit if and when he chose to. But he didn't really need the rental cabins. He just wanted the monthly payment moving forward. And he wanted a portion of his proceeds to go buy his next property. So that's why I worked out in that scenario, because I focused very much on his motivation, what his goals were, and then making sure we crafted a deal specifically for what made sense for him, as long as my numbers make sense as well. However, when I tried the exact same strategy when I moved down to San Diego, that did not work very well. Targeting high equity absentee owners for small multifamily in San Diego, California, especially the tight zip code that I was looking at, it didn't work very well because, first of all, San Diego is a phenomenal area. There's a million resources. Like there's a million property managers, a million handymen. Like it's very easy to get services out there. So, and if they don't like their current property manager, they can go find 50 more until they find the right one. And a lot of these people, if they have high equity, that means they probably bought it a long time ago and paid it all the way down. So probably they bought for $200,000 is now worth $1 million plus. And they're making solid rental income on that. If it's $1 million property, just, spitball on the 1% rule, they're making around 10K a month in rental income. I'm not a rules guy. Like I don't follow 1% rule or anything like that. I underwrite all my deals, but just to say like, 1% of the property value is the rental income. So maybe they're making $10,000 a month in rental income. They have very little to no debt. And in California in particular, your property taxes are primarily based on your purchase price. They increase, but only up to a certain percentage. And if you bought it for a couple $100,000 and it's worth $1 million plus dollars, you're getting like insane levels of tax benefits. So they're not very motivated. They're getting a ton of rental income. They have no debt on this property. They can pass it down to their kid. They have very little property tax expenses, where it's like different, right? In Alaska or Texas or a lot of markets where the taxes are continually getting adjusted every year, every few years. California has Prop 13, which mitigates that, really minimizes that. So it didn't work very well. So you have to also understand your market. What makes the most sense for your market? What are you targeting, right? Like I love seller financing because every single thing is negotiable. The seller is the bank, so everything's negotiable. The purchase price, the down payment, the monthly payments, and if you break that down, maybe the term of the payments or the interest rate, and then if there's a balloon or not, like literally everything is negotiable. You could even say, hey, I'm going to pay you $0 if they're open to, right? $0 day one, every year I'll give you $5,000. You're not focused so much on the monthly payment. You're paying them in installments that you can literally do whatever you want, or $5,000 at the end of year one, $10,000 at the end of year two. Maybe you're doing $500 in monthly payments, and then you add something like that because you know they have a big expense coming up and they want to address that. Like whatever, everything is negotiable. Where sub 2, you're just taking over their existing debt. So the debt payments and the debt amount, right? The interest rate, all that is already defined. You can't adjust that. Where seller finance is the exact opposite, but most sub 2 sellers, especially low equity ones, are much more motivated than your seller finance deals. Combining a few of these things. One of the things I or like whether it's seller finance or sub two, whether you're looking for maybe low equity or looking for high equity, two sub filters for those that I really like are high days on market. So the property's been listed on the market. So you get photos already available, which is why I like on market because I can see these photos because I do own in almost like 15 different states or at least 12, like around 12 states. So I like to be able to see the photos that are listed right away. When you're dealing with a seller directly, you're gonna have to coordinate the photos. It's not gonna be as professional as the other ones. Maybe the seller's gonna take the photos for you and they're gonna pick and choose what they show you. Same with when it's on market, but I have a much better idea because if you're listing on the market, you're typically selling it to a buyer that wants to just basically move into it. So it's in a better condition and the photos are solid. So that high days on market. So like looking for lower high equity opportunities and their high days on market, they might be more motivated or at least motivated to adjust their terms. So maybe they're not very motivated to sell because like they're seller finance, but they've seen the market has said for the last 100+ days, no one wants to buy it at this price. They then might be open to creative financing in the first place and or negotiating on those terms, or especially like, let's say they have it listed for $200,000 traditionally, but it's been listed for 100 days and they don't have any motivation, but they own it outright. You can tell them, hey, if I buy this at $100,000, would you be willing to carry terms? Like, would you be willing if I paid you over time on that and you act as the bank, right? That opens the door for those types of opportunities. And then I really love something called expired listings. So property was listed for sale, right? And then it got taken off the market, typically because either the seller and agent agreed they would take it off the market, or typically the agent's agreement with the seller is terminated, typically right around that 6-month time frame. So that the seller was interested in selling, they were not able to sell it, right? Now there's no agent involved, so you're going to save money when you go directly to the seller, but they tried to sell it, you already have the photos, and you stack something like expired listings with low equity. Well, maybe they didn't sell it because all they were presented for 6 months was traditional offers, and they didn't get the high enough sale price to be able to sell it traditionally to then not have to pay money to close. Not even make money, but not have to pay money to close. Where now you come in with a different offer. You say, hey, I can buy this sub two. I could take over your loan and all those, all that for you. And not only will you not have to spend $10,000 to sell this, I'll buy it at the price that you want. So you even make 5, 10K or whatever your agreement is, right? I'm saying random numbers, but it's all relative to actual deal and the property size and value. All that being said, those are the most conducive to what I'm doing, ideally finding fairly turnkey properties and leveraging creative financing. There are other motivations that provide even better discounts depending on what you're looking to do. One of them being pre-foreclosures. Someone is behind on their payments, whether it's 1, 2, however many months they're behind on payments, it's going through the pre-foreclosure process, especially if they have an auction date. They might be just willing to say, hey, I know I own this house for $300,000. I only have $200,000 of debt, but at this point, I'm $15,000 behind on payments. I don't want to go through foreclosure and potential bankruptcy. If you just pay this back, I'll let you take this house and take over that equity, right? The 300,000 minus your 200,000 of debt minus the 15K you're paying to catch up, or 215, right? So you're walking into $85,000 of equity, where that was very different than a low equity on market scenario. So you can walk into these that are more motivated and have a deeper discount, maybe walk into some equity, even creatively, or maybe it's a good candidate for like fix and flipping or, a traditional financing option. However, these strategies require a lot more work, like the pre-foreclosure route, and there's a much more personal element because they are on a lot of people's lists. Everyone is calling them. Like literally everyone is calling them. Everyone is contacting them. They might not even be looking at their phone anymore. They might already think you're a scam. They might like not want to work with you at all. So usually like something like door knocking is more conducive to this and trying to make a more personal relationship, not just calling them on the phone saying, hey, can I buy your house at a massive discount? It's much more relationship based, right? So just understanding like there are other strategies, but if I were to, next time we'll go over actually like how you find these on PropStream. But just to recap again, for me, as someone who is buying properties, I don't care about wholesaling. I'm not interested in fix and flipping because in my opinion, people wholesale to then make enough money, like have enough capital to then be able to fix and flip, to make even more money, to then be able to buy and hold real estate. Well, for me, I don't need to do these two things. I don't think anyone needs to do these two things. You can buy and hold real estate, great investment opportunities by raising the capital to buy that deal. So you don't need your own money to buy that real estate, right? And then you just need to prove yourself as an effective operator and borrower and take care of your lenders and the property, right? The assets that you're acquiring together. So for me, I'm not interested in fixing, flipping, and wholesaling. It's a distraction from my overall goal, just buying, holding real estate, generating more passive income to further increase my financial freedom or my passive income, right? And generate more and more massive wealth through the ownership benefits of debt paydown, tax benefits, and the property's appreciating over time as well. For example, we just filed my taxes late last night. I paid zero taxes again for like the third year in a row, all thanks to real estate. It's not that I didn't make a lot of money. Now it's different because I quit my like traditional job, but it's not like I don't make a solid amount of money. I make good money, obviously, but because of real estate, you can offset virtually everything on your properties. And then if you're qualified as a real estate professional, you or your spouse, you can offset all sources of income. Or something my CPA and I talked about literally yesterday was treating all of our overhead for the business as its own entity on a Schedule C, and then leveraging that instead of the real estate professional tax, instead of the real estate professional like tax designation or whatever it's called. I'm not your CPA, right? Do not trust me for accounting advice. Go talk to your CPA. I talk to my CPA. I talk to my attorneys. I'm not your attorney, CPA, whatever. Disclaimers out there. But going that route was another strategy to help me offset all of my income from my education, from my consulting, my calculator, my whole real estate portfolio, my W-2 income up until August. Well, actually, I worked all of 2023, so I'm confusing years. But up until August of this year, I'm able to offset everything, all thanks to real estate. Mike, you got a question? Go for it, my man.
Yeah, Michael, this is great. Thanks for opening this up. I do have a quick question. If you're taking questions, I had to join a little bit late. I had another call I was on.
You're good.
Um, so you made a comment, prove yourself as an effective operator and borrower. When you're someone who's starting out their real estate investing journey, what are the three things a person can do when you have nothing that credentializes you in the real estate world? I mean, I got a whole career of credentials, but none of it specifically is relevant to real estate. What are the three things a person can do to establish being an effective operator and borrower?
So, so we're gonna go from someone who has zero real estate experience, like someone who never wholesaled, lent,
Like,
anything,
I own
or
my
never.
house.
Okay, perfect. And that's it. And you're just kind of learning. Okay, perfect. I can answer that all day. So the first thing I'll tell you is this is exactly what the intentional investor is for starting November 1st, right? Not trying to plug, but that's exactly what this is for, is to help you streamline your operations and to systematize it by literally following the exact blueprint that I utilized over the last several years. I mean, remember, I've been investing in real estate for 4 years. In the last 2 years, really the last 18 months, I've skyrocketed by shifting the way that I'm buying and holding real estate and systematizing that process. And I'm sharing all that with everyone starting November 1st in the intentional investor community. If that's the right fit for you, do that. Especially if you're looking to leverage capital, you get everything you need in there, every tool, every resource, everything that I do in my business. And as I continue to grow and expand and get bigger and better, I continue sharing that all with you. Let's say you're not doing that, right? Right? Things that you can do. First and foremost, I think a very valuable skill set for most people is not wholesaling. Like in my journey, wholesaling first was helpful for me to like learn more about real estate, even though I was already a real estate buyer before I started wholesaling. People say, oh, does that benefit your ability to now buy and hold? Kind of, but I think that's because I was very intentional about wholesaling and I was essentially doing what people call wholesaling is not essentially what I was doing. I was an intentional bird dog. I was going to buyers in a market, Huntsville, Alabama, and I was learning from them exactly the types of deals that they were looking for. And then I was going back and then finding opportunities for those end buyers. So I already knew exactly what they were looking to buy, right? So I was intentionally bird dogging for them. I went and I developed my skill set of finding these opportunities that I knew what other people wanted to buy. And it was a valuable skill set for me. And it was a way for me to make money, right? I was making assignment fees, but I knew exactly what buyers in that market were looking for. And I can very strategically target opportunities to get them those investments. I think that was a valuable part of my journey. And I would say maybe before you buy and hold your very first investment, being an intentional bird dog, finding a proven buyer or operator to then, well, let's just say buyer. We'll just use the term buyer. Finding a proven buyer and then going and finding them the exact deals they want doesn't mean you have to go wholesale and do direct to seller, direct to agent. You could literally go find deals from wholesalers and say, hey, I've analyzed this, Michael. I know this is exactly the deal that you want to buy. You've presented this is your buy box within it. Is this something that you want to buy? As a intentional bird dog, you can then get paid a fee, or maybe you prove yourself to that person and they say, you know what, we're going to bring you in as an owner for this asset. We're going to joint venture. We're going to own this asset together. I've done that. We just did that. We're closing on one on Monday where the wholesaler who's also intentionally finding deals for us is a co-owner of the asset with us, right? That's one way to do it. I would say the same for intentional capital raising. So maybe you want to focus more on the money side. So then you go find a proven buyer. I'll just use me as an example again, right? Hey, Michael, I know you need to raise $100,000 for this investment. Because I'm a very good operator and I know what I'm doing as a buy and hold investor, I've already got all my underwriting together. I've got my marketing material together. So all that intentional capital connector has to do is take my marketing material, present it to people that they think might be interested, and see if anyone's a good fit, and then refer them to me or make that connection to potentially raise that capital. Then they would get paid a fee on that. But now you, as the intentional capital connector, know the types of deals that people in your circle are looking to lend on, and you have the hard stuff done. You don't need to find the deal. You don't need to analyze it, put it under contract, all the due diligence, all the marketing material. All you're doing is developing your skill set of presenting deals to potential borrowers, and then developing that skill set and making money. And potentially, once again, someone does that with me multiple times, I'm gonna say, man, you got to join our team. You got to be part of what we're doing in the long term. That's like foundational is what I would say. Develop those skills is a great way to do it. If you're and especially if you have no money, but you have time and hustle, if you are someone who has money, one of the things you can do is when you're starting out, if your entry cost is $50,000 and you're going to do, let's say, a private money partnership, a 50-50 split, and you need $50,000 to acquire this deal, and you're going to split it 50-50. Well, one of the ways you can make your capital partner feel better is, hey, capital partner, you put in 40K, I'll put in 10K. So I also have skin in the game and we'll still split 50-50. I'm the one who brought the deal. I'm the one who is going to help and oversee the management and operations. And then you, capital partner, are bringing in, what was that, 80% of the capital. And I'll still bring in 20% myself. That's something I definitely I recommend people to do, especially early in their journey, because that's how you're juicing their returns. Because if they only put in 40,000 versus 50,000, their returns are higher because it's based on their entry cost. And then secondarily, you have more skin in the game. It's not just their money on the line. So that's the second strategy. If you have money, if you have money, hustle, and you want to do everything and streamline your journey, that's the intentional investor. That's like exactly what it is you're not only just figuring this stuff out on your own, you are quite literally following a proven blueprint that has helped me go from $2 million of real estate 18 months ago to 20 million. And it's not like the 2 million was perfect. I was making $6,500 a month in passive income from that portfolio because small multi-units were phenomenal for cash flow, especially in 2020, 2021, where interest rates were lower. But even when interest rates skyrocketed, I've been able to buy over $18 million, or right around $18 million of real estate, over 30 units that generate me way over $10,000 of cash flow just on the new acquisitions through this very systematized process. And that's exactly what I'm showing my veteran investors who are paying $25,000+ for 6 weeks of intensive handholding. Let's do this whole thing together. Or making it much more accessible to intentional investors who want to maybe do it together, but you're really doing it yourself. You have everything you need to. You're doing it yourself, but you have me. We're doing mastermind calls weekly. We're going to do some in-person events, all that good stuff. And I help address your specific questions like I do with our Wealth Through Real Estate community. But you have all my tools, my systems, like you're just plugging and playing exactly what has been working for me, essentially. So like those are kind of the 3 options, depending on no money, but you got time. You got money, but maybe not as much time, or, you can still have time and go that route, putting some of your own money in. If you have 0 operations, I mean, at that note, you could just buy deals yourself and say, you know what, I need to buy 1 to 3 properties myself before anyone is willing to invest in me. But that strategy of putting some money in and then doing more of the work and splitting it, 50-50 doesn't mean the next deal you have to do the same thing. The next deal you might be able to do, hey, I'm doing the majority of the work. I'm getting 60%, you're getting 40%, and you still put in 20% of the capital. The next time you put in 0% of the capital, you put in none, your capital partner brings everything, and you're still at 60-40 or 50-50. What you raise and what you're able to do in the very beginning is different than where you're going to get to. When I started out, I didn't have to put money in, but I already had 27 rentals before I was raising capital. What I did have to do was still go 50-50 with my partners until I could go 60-40. And now it's really 70-30, but my partners right now are more focused on stability and security, not trying to maximize every percentage of growth, because they'd rather not lose that money and they want to be part of what we're doing so they can learn and do the same for themselves. And that's actually how Intentional Investor started, was partners and lenders were saying, hey, I really want to be able to do this myself. I think the best way to do that is to lend to you and with you so I can learn along this journey with you. But that was like property by property. Now they're learning everything about everything, because that's what all this is: veteran investor and intentional investor. Hopefully that helps for kind of the roadmap, what I would recommend.
Yep, thanks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And like I said, I don't even know if it's on the recording, but I don't mind going live and answering questions live, because I'm literally doing this stuff every day. I may not know everything, but I know a lot more than a lot of people. And as a real estate investor, I'm in the top percentage of real estate investors, especially the way that we're scaling. So I don't mind answering questions, even like tough ones, like live, and trying to provide you the best answers I can. It doesn't mean I know everything. It doesn't mean I don't have a better answer if I was pre-planned, but I have no problems answering any questions you guys have live, especially going transparent into my business. I'm cool with all of it because I want you all to succeed. I have nothing to hide. And my path to financial freedom came through real estate investing, not through coaching and education. If anything, I don't want to be anyone's mentor, but I do want to help as many people as possible achieve financial freedom. This is one of the many ways that I do it. And if you want to stay in the free realm, I provide so much value. I just gave more resources away. Wealth the real estate community, Instagram, YouTube. There's a lot of info out there. I had none of this when I started. I'm fast tracking those who want it and have the time and money to go that route. And a big reason why there's a money filter too is I honestly don't, in good faith, I don't think it's the best thing to teach people who can't afford, less than $10,000 a month, less than $10,000 a year for education, to then be able to raise tons of capital to buy deals. Because if you can't handle your personal finances, it's like a filter, in my opinion. If you can't handle your personal finances, it's very risky then to bring other people's money involved into your business. So that's part of the filter as well. And I think everyone in Intentional Investor appreciates that, because that allows me to keep the group smaller, and it's of the right people, of the right place, who are all looking to scale together. If, some would say, go take out credit card debt, you're going to make way more money when you do that. I'm not of that mindset, because I think do it if it's the right fit for you. Do it if you're looking to scale, but you should not be in a position in which you cannot afford your needs, and this is an investment for your education to improve yourself. Not like, I'm going to put my last couple dollars here because I'm going to get rich in a month. Could it happen? Sure. But in all reality, that's not the way you want to approach business and investing. Have longer time horizons and make sure you're financially secure first. Cool. What else, guys? This is your show.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, there you are. Where are you at, Nadine?
Um,
Are you on video?
no, I'm not on
Okay, no
video.
worries. I was trying to spotlight you, but that's why. Okay.
Oh, it's okay. So for your rent by the room rentals,
Yep.
are you primarily on the pad split platform for those? And if you do kind of a combination of pad split and then non-pad split, how do you determine whether or not you're going to do pad split? And also, are you concerned at all with the increasing amount of crackdowns in certain counties where they're, making it harder, more difficult for pad splits to stay open and operate?
Right. So let's
Similar to like Airbnbs.
Right. So let's start with the top. So yes, we do both pad split, and we also self-manage properties outside the pad split platform. We've been doing that, but honestly, pad split allows for you to leverage their platform for everything. Like, pad split is great. It's the equivalent of like Airbnb for short-term rentals, in the sense that they're not doing your property management. You're not paying them to manage your property. You're paying them to list your properties on their platform wherever, like, they have a lot of eyeballs and users. And they're handling like the tenant screening process. Like, they have it in their system. They're doing all of that stuff for you. And the rent collections, maintenance requests, all that is done on their platform. It makes it very easy to communicate, consolidate everything, as opposed to when you have to do it yourself on other management platforms. We leverage other management platforms like TurboTenant if we're doing something outside of pad split, but you can bring in your own tenants and plug them into the pad split platform and save on the 10 days of the first 10 days of income that they collect. They collect 100% of the first 10 days. And then it's a percentage of the rental income after, I think like 8-ish%. of the rental income after that point, after the first 10 days. That 10 days can eat up a lot of your profit if you're having high turnover because they're eating up a solid amount. So you can avoid that by bringing in your own tenants. We've also had our own standalone co-living properties, but in all reality, like when we took, like what we do a lot in our business is reflect back on what is working, what isn't, and then focus on the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. What 20% of our actions are resulting in 80% of our results, and sitting there and finding our own tenants on a separate platform and all that to save that 8%. We just said this is not worth our time. Either we're going to leverage the PadSplit platform for them generating the tenants, or we're going to find our own tenants still, but then plug them through that platform. That made the most sense for us. And we have an asset manager and 2 virtual assistants that handle management in-house for our portfolio, right? Like we've built that into our business. For most people, I'd say just leverage the PadSplit platform. The amount of work and maintenance involved for PadSplit, like tenant communications, is fairly straightforward. You can tap into contractors, handymen, cleaners, whoever, to then do a lot of the property management services that you might need and just pay them on a hourly or service-based. Like if you need a show a tenant a unit, you can have your cleaner do that. You don't need like this formal thing. And what we do is we have like electronic door codes at every door, including the entry and exit, so people can come in and do a self-showing. We have photos and videos and all that, so we can just, like, that's another thing. Like we don't really need to show every single unit every time. We got photos and videos, and typically there's overlap between a tenant. We don't want to bother them. So photos and videos, and doing that from the very beginning is valuable to have all that ready to go. So we do both PadSplit and then non-PadSplit, but now we're primarily, even if we're finding our own tenants, we're running them through the PadSplit platform for management and saving on the 10 days, but you still have to pay their 8% fee.
Okay.
Did that answer that piece of the question?
Yeah, it does. Yes.
Okay. And then so if you, and for PadSplit, we're primarily only buying properties in major PadSplit markets. The reason why, so you can actually leverage the PadSplit platform even in markets that they're not operating in. There's like 3 tiers that you can do. One of them is, as I mentioned, you do everything through PadSplit and in a PadSplit market. Actually, I don't even know for certain. This is my like recollection of it. You are leveraging the PadSplit platform in non-PadSplit markets. And then I think you're bringing in your own tenants into PadSplit markets. Like there's 3 different tiers and what they provide. If you are operating in PadSplit markets on the PadSplit platform, they will actually have people support you if and when something comes up about like ordinances or any issues, like any restrictions or anything. They will literally fight on your behalf because that's an attack on their business model in that market, and they've already specifically chosen specific markets. So they're doing the research for you and they're mitigating that risk. Can things change over time? Sure, but the best way the government really regulates this kind of stuff is like focused on like average daily stays, or like the stay duration. So they're able to minimize short-term rentals by saying, hey, your average stay has to be 30 days or more. That's where a lot of restrictions are. If you're putting that every PadSplit tenant, it has to be 30 days or more, like what are they going to specifically restrict on? I mean, it could be the number of people in that house, but you're also working with PadSplit, and when they're running through PadSplit, they're actually not tenants on a lease. They're paying for a membership to be part of PadSplit to stay in that property. So not even tenants on a lease. They're paying to be a member of PadSplit and then staying in one of the units that PadSplit is offering them as part of their membership. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So am I worried about that? No. The most aggressive thing they can do and that they will do is maybe limit the shorter stays, because that's a huge issue. But people who wants to go champion, honestly, what local official wants to go champion against cracking down on affordable housing options, especially in like areas where people literally cannot afford to live. Like they literally cannot afford to live. Who wants to be the champion of that, saying, hey, we're cracking down on this, no more affordable housing in these areas, like especially if you're taking care of your properties. It's one thing if you're a crappy slumlord and you're cramming 10 people in a room and it's terrible conditions. Another thing if you have a 9-bedroom home that is, everyone's got a nice standard size, everything's clean and well taken care of. Like we do common area cleanings and we have our properties checked on frequently. Like that's a completely different distinction. What you're concerned about is more of like, you might as well, not you, Nadine, I know not you, but like a lot of people who are overly worried about every regulation and restriction is the same people that tend to be worried about like, oh my God, the market's crashing, or that, like, you don't want to stay on the sidelines forever. I'm not saying that's you, because I know that's not you, but you can't be worried about everything that can come up, especially when it's like government regulations, typically you're grandfathered in too. Even like in San Diego, when they cracked down on short-term rentals, they didn't really like crack down. They narrowed the amount of people, they narrowed the amount of short-term rentals within the city itself, not the county. And they kind of throttled what was out there. What they really did was filter out the people who were no longer managing short-term rentals actively and just had a listing. So they kind of got rid of a lot of that because it wasn't worth the cost for it. People are still doing short-term rentals, even though they shouldn't be as well. Like, because they went from like, let's say they dropped to like 25% of what it was before. I don't even have the specific numbers. But even then, like a lot of people grandfathered in, or you had the option to then just join like their permitting process. No one's going to come and kick down your door and say, you can't do this, especially not like in an instance. So you're buying these assets, you're buying them at great debt, you're buying great properties that are going to make you a bunch of cash flow in the meanwhile, but you're also generating massive wealth over the long term. And if you end up needing to take that cash flow, remove the non-load bearing walls, and then sell that house for a 50 or 100K profit, awesome. You got tax savings, someone else paid down your debt, property's appreciated. You might have made cash flow, you ideally are making cash flow over the entire process as well. It's not going to happen tomorrow. I guess I can say that. And just stay on top of it. If you're doing a management strategy, stay on top of what you're doing as well, especially in the markets that you're operating in. That's where you leverage resources like Pad Split to help you on that behalf, because that's literally their business model. They will go out of business if they cannot operate. Maybe not in that one market, right? They will stop in that market. But if it's a major market of theirs, they're going to be doing a lot of that research. It's the same reason why some people say, I'm going to only buy properties within 5 miles of a Starbucks, because Starbucks is already deemed this is an area in which is going to grow. And I want to own assets in a market that they've already done the market research on for me, right? Like that's kind of the same thought process there. It's different, but similar thought process of someone else already done the market research. That's part of their business model, is to put Starbucks in great locations, or locations they think make sense. So then they're going to buy near those. Similar with Pad Split, they're doing the market research, saying these are the markets that we're operating in. These are the ones, these are our major focus areas. These are the ones we're going to potentially expand to. They're doing the research for you. Doesn't mean you don't need to do any of your own. But yeah, that's just a huge value add, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. Appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Like I said, I could have a curated, nice, beautiful answer if I pre-planned for stuff like this. We're live here, baby. All right. Anything else? I know I started a little later, so I'll do one more if you guys have anything. Otherwise, sorry, you're going to get a lot of push to join Intentional Investor. Wealth to Real Estate's phenomenal, but Intentional Investor is going to take the serious action takers and the people who are ready to scale. It's going to take your business, literally to whatever you want. Without this, while developing it in the meanwhile, I bought almost $20 million of real estate and achieved far greater financial freedom levels than I would have ever thought so, and did it using little to none of my own money. Now, in hindsight, this is the thing that I wish that I had, and that's what I'm putting into the marketplace to make your journey that much more streamlined. If you're the right fit for that, awesome. If not, cool. I got a bunch of free stuff for you. Yeah, Mike, go for it.
Yeah. So you mentioned one of your first, or maybe your very first acquisition was your cabins up in Alaska. And you've also mentioned that you bought your portfolio with none of your own cash. So you were new into real estate, you found this property in Alaska, and you were able to secure it without any of your own cash. What's the variables that went into that, and whose cash did you use?
Mike, you got to watch my investing journey. I got it in the school community.
Oh, I'll go there then. I just got all that link and I got all that stuff today. So.
No, I'm just kidding. Like, I'll give you a real quick summary. So using little to none of my own cash, right? The first property I ever bought was a house hack using my VA loan. Does everyone have access to that? No. So I was able to buy this property 0% down. There's a little bit of fees and all that, but that gets rolled into the loan for the most part. So a few grand to close on a duplex that then generated me $1,000+ a month in cash flow once I moved out, right? Because I was living for free during that time. You could have done the FHA loan 3.5% down. And that's actually what I did the next go around. I utilized the FHA loan to be able to buy my next property, my 4-unit, with 3.5% down payment. However, even that like 3.5% down payment, because I appreciated the value of my first property by renovating it, I took out a HELOC and I used that money to then pay my down payment and my furnishing costs, right? So it doesn't only mean other people's money is everything, including the bank's money, including the HELOC. Like all of that is other people's money as well. I'm actually going to write a little ebook on this. I'm working with my friends to do that. So VA loan, house hack, FHA loan, house hack, use the HELOC for the down payment and furnishings. Then I started, and during that time, I was starting to wholesale cash deals out of state, but I was taking that money, investing in the stock market and passive index funds That's primarily what I was doing with it because I didn't need my own money to buy real estate at that point. I was just house hacking, building my portfolio through that. Not everyone has the right market for that. Not everyone has the right capital for that. Not everyone has the right credit for that, right? So I understand that. So then what I did was I applied my wholesaling tactics out of state and then looked for those absentee high equity owners in my local market of multifamily properties. So then what I did was, this is the Morby method or the seller carryback post closing. I took out a commercial loan, 75% of the property's value. And then the seller said, hey, I need $200,000. Like I have a loan of around $400,000. It's around an $800,000 purchase price. I need right around like 150,000, like 150 to 200. I think it was $150,000 of this to then go buy my next property. And I just want to get monthly. I'm cool with getting monthly checks as long as I don't have to worry about these 20 cabins in Alaska. So with the 75% to the commercial lender, I said, hey, the seller is willing to finance the down payment. So I don't have to actually pay any down payment. And they said, no, we can let them finance 15%, but you have to put 10% down. I said, oh, okay. So I got to put $80,000 down. And then I had to like bring in money for closing costs and some renovations I want to do. So it was around $130,000 that I needed to put down. Well, what I did was I raised them. I talked to the seller first and I said, hey, you said you need this amount. Well, what if I still get you that amount, but are you willing to carry more? I know the bank is saying, the commercial lender is saying they are only going to allow us to do this 15% down to close on the property. So I need to make that $100,000 to close. But right after we close, are you willing to then finance me back that amount of money so I could pay off all the people who I borrowed funds from? So then like he's seller financing the whole 25% and my closing costs. And actually I ended up making a few grand on that closing. So for that 130K I needed to close, I did it through like 13 different sources. I was in the military, didn't have a lot of money. So I got like two other active duty service members up there who were my friends and who were seeing what I was doing with my other two properties. I said, hey, I'm going to give you really solid returns. I just need your money for 30 days. Between like the $30,000 I got from those two, selling some stock, taking loans out against crypto, taking loans out against stock, credit card, 0%, like literally everything. Because I didn't know how to raise capital at that point. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just figuring out as I went. I didn't even understand. I was not in sub 2. I was not in I was in one thing about seller financing, not what I was doing there. This Morby method, this more complicated version of it. So I raised 130K through 13 different sources, 5 to 10K, like let's say 10K on average at a time, closed on it. And the seller wired back the additional 10% down payment plus my closing costs. And that 130K he wired back, which I'm now financing and making payments on, plus the 15% he did originally, I'm just making payments on all of that. So the bank has 75%. He has 25% plus like the extra 1% for closing costs and all that kind of stuff. Those are the first three.
That's awesome. Good for you. Making it work. Love it.
Thank you. For me, it was always, I'm very passionate about the majority of people in our country, I'll say, I don't know about the world, but in our country should earn solid income, save a lot of it, and then invest in the stock market and passive index funds, and they'll be financially free in 40 plus years. If that's the timeline and path you want to go down, most guaranteed route to do it with the least amount of effort. However, I know most of us don't want to wait that long, nor do we have, hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest over that time period to then allow it to grow in time, or we don't trust the stock market, or it's too volatile in the short term for some people, whatever. Real estate, what is my path? But I don't think everyone is cut out to be a successful real estate investor because they don't want to do the appropriate due diligence. They don't want to put the appropriate time and effort. They don't want to systematize and treat this like a business, which is what I've done. The first 2 years I was figuring it out. The last 2 years have been insane. And that's really where the value is. There's no point in me teaching people how to house hack using a VA loan or, that kind of stuff. It's really what have I been doing over the last 18 months to buy almost 20 or $18 million of real estate, over 30 rentals that have generated me like 10, I don't know. It's probably like 15 plus thousand because not every month, but the cash flow continues to increase, right? We closed on one last Friday. We're closing on one this Monday. Like we're always adding more units. And that's another thing. Like I'm not done buying real estate. I'm just sharing what I'm doing in the meanwhile and helping other people. I'm still doing my thing. I may not be buying. My goal is not to buy 3+ a month. It's more to buy 1 or 2 a month or 3 to 5 a quarter, but that's more than enough. My goal was my random goal was 60 deals per year. And then I thought, why do I need to buy 5 properties a month? That introduces a lot of risk and I have to grow my team to match that. At 1 to 2 properties a month, I'm still buying 20 plus deals. I'm already financially free. I'm already generating a bunch of cash flow. I'm adding to that cash flow. I'm adding to the wealth generation. Like I don't need to over leverage and over risk myself to scale massively for no reason because I'm not trying to be a billionaire. Like I joke, I'm not trying to be a billionaire, but $100 million is pretty cool too. Like I'm cool with that amount, you know? And really it's the financial freedom. Like the wealth is fun on your net worth, but it's really how much money do you have coming in every month passively or at least semi-passively, right? Especially when you outsource yourself and you replace yourself or decide to sell off and do whatever you want with those funds. That's the goal. Like the passive income is the goal. The wealth is fun, but it's really the passive income, at least in the short term, that allows you to be financially free and do whatever you want. And financial freedom, I don't actually care about that in a silo. I care about financial freedom for one reason only: time freedom. I want to be able to do what I want, whenever I want, especially wherever I want, especially with a baby girl now. I love to be able to just go see her anytime she's awake, work when she's sleeping, see her when she's awake and play with her. And that's like the way my life is designed. That's the way I wanted my life to be. I was not going to have a baby. We were not going to have kids until we were in a financial position in which I can dedicate a lot of time to my kids. And that's why I quit my job, because I did not have the bandwidth to do the job. And especially when they wanted me to come in office more and continue growing this thing. And I was not going to stop real estate investing and helping other people on their path to financial freedom. So I made a decision, quit the job, spend more time with my baby with those 8+ hours a day, and then continue to do what I'm doing on the real estate side. And I'm never one to advocate for you to quit your job until later down the line. I did all this while 1 to 2 hours a day over a consistent period of time, over years, right? You can accelerate that by doing more in shorter periods of time, but I'm not telling you to quit your job to go on real estate unless you already have some type of financial safety net, which is that passive income through some of your buy and holds. Cool. All right. I think we'll leave it at that. Appreciate you guys for showing up. Go take advantage of all the goodies. I'll have this video uploaded. I'll share this video as well, make a post about it in the next day or two. So then you can go and check out some of the things that we talked about, but also we went through a preview of the intentional investor and the curriculum and all the trainings that you get access to. I showed you some of the good freebies that I just shared as well to everyone. So I'll have this uploaded so you guys can access all that. Cool, y'all. Thank you. Oh, can you do me a favor? I never asked. Can you guys please take a photo? Please take a photo, post it on your social media. One takeaway: Instagram's the best, at Michael MNAT. Awesome session, talked about XYZ things. If they want to join the real estate community, if you want to recommend that to them, go for it. I'll drop the link here. There's literally no obligation to do that. But if you know people who might be a great fit for this, and I heavily filter our group, so there's plenty of people I deny. We could be at over 1,000 members. I deny a lot of people who I think are going to waste people's time. There's a lot of scammers on the school platform too. So my goal is always to get rid of those people immediately, but I don't want people detracting other people's path to financial freedom. So if they're detracting from that, or, then yeah. All right. Oh, Karen asked, what size properties am I buying with investors? 1 to 4 unit properties. We've done up to 7 units with other investors, but we care more about creative financing than we do about property size, because we can really structure, just these great deals. So you're going to find that in the small, like only the small multifamily space. You cannot go too big on the property size. Otherwise you need a commercial loan, and it's just a whole different business, whole different strategy. For us, it's creative financing, and you can seller finance small multifamily because people can't own those outright. But I mean, I mentioned the 20 rental cabins, right? So that was a Morby method. That's a way that we handled that. Actually, I handle that independently. And then, yeah. And then, yeah, those 1 to 4 unit properties already have great interest rates and all that. So, all right. Thanks, y'all.